it might have been a news show, and someone said, we've gotten so politically correct, so scared to say the thing, so not to offend people, that we don't say anything. And that's kind of how they felt we've dissolved into kind of a lot of the circumstances that we're in now. And I mean, obviously there is a lot more to that, but I think that that's a good point. Kimberly says cultural humility is generally more accepted than cultural competence. Yeah, I think cultural humility is a great term as well. I think we should all enter every space with cultural humility. I think cultural competence is making people want to have, like, is there something in between? I don't know. Maybe it is just cultural humility and then you learn. What do you all think? What about the terms? Or does it matter?
Yeah, I think cultural humility, it holds it pretty well, right?
Mm,
You're always humble, you're always learning, you're always listening, you're always respectful, those sort of things. Yeah, I just have that, there's that competence where it feels so
yeah.
like linear, like you start here, you go along this process, and then bam, here's your certificate of cultural competency. Like I just that part of it I don't like. It's so much more. Cultural humility is this fluid, ever evolving thing that you can just be and live. So yeah,
Hmm.
I definitely think that's a good place to sit in.
Yeah. We have a question here for you all from Doug, who's a fellow. He's another fellow. And he asked, basically he's asking, has there been resistance or what pushback, if any, have you received in regards to your revolutionary social work, whether it be your actual social, your social work, the way you do your practice, the way you educate, or your podcasts and other materials.
I'll say, Christian, you can talk more on the students. I know there's been such a great reaction there. I will say I try my very best to lead with these values every day, and working in a healthcare system, it is very difficult. There's this resistance, like a level of resistance that's always there that people don't realize they're putting on all of the staff that doesn't allow you
Hmm.
to fully live these values. But I think
Mm.
generally we've had such a good reaction. And Kristen, if you want to speak to the reaction you've had from your students.
Yeah. The reaction I've had from my students has been overwhelmingly, phenomenally positive. When I open up a course, I describe what revolutionary social work is and the values and what you can expect from the way I'll operate in the course. And I
Mhm.
use voice threads, for example. Um, and if you were to go through my voice threads through the class I'm teaching right now, from the first module, the first week, most of them would be saying, I can't wait to learn more. If it's a new student, anyways, they'd be saying, I can't
Mhm.
wait to learn more about revolutionary social work. This is what I have been wanting to hear. And I'm
Mm.
so glad that somebody is spelling it out essentially. Where I've received resistance in two ways, I'd say, is that I think it's outside the status quo and outside the box. So it's unfamiliar and weird to people. And so crickets, like people just ignoring me. And then
Uh-huh.
through more from a more systemic side, institutionalized side, like whether it's the National Association of Social Workers or
Mhm.
my university, it makes them uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I'm good with that, but I'd
Yeah.
say that it makes them like I don't, and again, there's no specific disagreements. It's been very rare that somebody has specifically disagreed with it. It's more, again, like on the institutional side of it, is that they gives them the heebie-jeebies and it makes them uncomfortable. And so they just kind of, it's like opposing magnets and they'll go the other direction and let me be because they really can't. Um, I had one time where um, the, the, let's just say two individuals at the university met with me to talk to me about some things. And I was able to provide a really nice rebuttal and articulate my values and the values of it. And they were like, okay, cool. I don't have anything else to say about it. And so no,
Uh-huh.
I haven't received any like really any direct criticism or takedowns or this or that. I've had things that are more on the fringe, but it's not uh due to the values of revolutionary social work. It's more like, talking about Israel Palestine or something, and
Mhm.
um folks disagreeing with the take that was given. But as far as actual revolutionary social work, the only feedback that I've gotten from students and others, and I get these long emails all the time, not millions of them, but a substantial amount of folks that write me and just want to connect and build on the ideas of revolutionary social work. And to me, that's what it's all about. So that's what I do it. But as far as direct criticism, most of that is just crickets, or like kind of resistance, not even of resistance, but awkwardness from the university or organizations.
We've
Yeah.
really found that there's a lot of people that have been looking for something different, that have not seen themselves in the more mainstream social work spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh my goodness, what is this? And so that's a lot of what we've gotten. And people who do find it kind of awkward and resist it, if you break down the values and you
Mm-hmm.
question, is this one of your values or do you want it to be? People,
Right.
yeah, people like, yeah. I mean, love, sure. Like kinship with each other, sure. But the challenging the status quo is one of our core values. And I think people are uncomfortable with that. It takes people outside of their comfort zone. It's social work has gotten into this like standardized procedure realm, which is so
Mm.
weird and so far from the art of social work and the roots of
Yes.
social work where it came from. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I feel like we're trying to become more something that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think people are seeking something different. And when they look at what we're doing with revolutionary social work, they're like, oh my goodness, let me learn
Mm-hmm.
more. So we've had a really good response overall.
Yeah. I love that. And I love I've loved the conversations that we've had. And I would just say also, and anyone who knows me now knows this is my thing. My existence is resistance, right? And so for me, and there's this quote I just heard not too long ago that was like, if you're not disappointing people, you're not living. And so I take pride in people being like, you know what? I didn't like that. I'm like, great. Tell me what you didn't like about that and
Talk
why.
about
Let's,
it.
yeah. But I'll tell you, I have had so many of your students, Christian, find me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, how'd you find my page? I watched your podcast with Christian and Alicia. So it's really, it really hits. And they obviously appreciate your guests. So I appreciate you all for the people that you welcome in. I do want to jump into the comments really quick because we're winding down. We still have some good time, but we are winding down. I want to make sure I get to folks. Kimberly says, absolutely, Alicia, the cultural humility is related to an individual's lifelong learning process. Dr. Searcy said, I think of cultural competence just seems kind of arrogant. Like, could you truly know someone else's experience? Right. Oh, we have I do not want to butcher this name because people butcher my name. Senabu. Please put your pronunciation in the chat if I butchered that. I do apologize. But they said I use cultural awareness. I like that.
I
How do you
like
all feel
that.
about? Yeah. Yeah, I like cultural awareness. Arc says intentionally do the actions uh to be culturally oh do the actions to be culturally relevant to the communities in which you seek to serve or learn from. So maybe okay, I see. Yes, something around like cultural relevancy. That could, yeah. And I think maybe these terms could also be used depending on what you're referring to.
Right.
Um, I think I always talk about entering every space as an outsider, even spaces that I think I have belonged to. Like, I'm born and raised Philly. I've been back here now for 5 years, but I was gone for 20 years. So when I came back, I was an inside outsider. I had not been tapped into the local economy, the local business structure, like I hadn't been tapped into those things, anything beyond like my family, right? And so um I think it's important to just keep those things in mind, and regardless of what you call it, if you recognize that that is not your culture, and you enter a space, a community like that, people will appreciate it. At least it's worked for me. Um,
I think that's important, Kashe, just to touch on that. It's like the words language is important, but it is what we do. You
Mhm.
know, the actions and what we're living that's important. I think all of these kind of express what we're trying to
Yeah,
do.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, oh, we have a good question here. I don't know who wants to take this, but Duckworth says, how do we support each other in today's environment where deportation is impacting the Latino community? And man, and we could talk about that from every angle, because there's the social work system, who we know is like turning foster children over and, participating as they are. Then we also have law enforcement. We know what they're doing. I mean, every branch of the government right now, and the impact that this has on the mental health of the not only the Latino community, but I would offer the collective,
Yeah.
like the collective grief and collective crisis that is happening right now. You all want to speak to that?
I think basically we have to care, one, and we have to be talking about it, right? Because if we're not having these discussions, some people will never know. And
Yes.
so the more we talk about it, the more we speak about it, then we start building this community that does care and that knows. And that's the basic level. And then, I mean, there's so much that is out of our control, but there is a lot that's also within our control. And so finding those things that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But people, we have to start from that foundation. I think a lot of people don't, they're not willing, or they don't feel like they have the capacity, which is real, right?
Yeah.
To know about what's going on. But we have to care. We have to care about each other, and we have to be talking about it. But yeah, like actual specific things is hard. Um, but that's where if we dialogue with each other, then we can
Mm-hmm.
start building ideas and share what we can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Christian,
Christian,
I
you
don't know if
wanna?
you have other.
Yeah, honestly, it's a really tough question for me, and I don't know if I know the answer. And I think it's
Yeah.
something that I need to continue to listen and learn more about. And we haven't been in living in
Yeah.
areas with a large amount of Latinos. We've been back and forth between Alaska and Hawaii, but we did have that stint in Utah where I was what was my title? I don't even remember what my title was. I worked in the access. What was my title? I was in the
Diversity
access.
coordinator? I don't know what it
I don't remember what it
Oh,
was,
that,
but
like the student affairs coordinator or
was.
something.
Something like that.
I worked in the Access and Diversity Center, and I was actually the advisor to what were they? There was the Black Student Union. What was the Latino one? I can't. The Latinx Student Union, I think, is what they called themselves. And it was during the time. It was during the when the first Trump administration had come in, and there was a lot of things about the is it the dream with the Dreamers, and we actually had had a couple students that became really close to, and I just did the best that I could to listen to them, and I did what they asked me to do. And we had a couple little marches, and I wrote a letter to the editor that got published in the local newspaper, and things
Nice.
like that. But I think for the most part, it's something that I need to listen and see how other people that are actually know more about it than I am and that are living it, and how can I support them and things like that is the way that I would look at it.
And if
Mm.
there's anybody, I mean, this is why we love having dialogue on the podcast. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
can bring people on to talk about this stuff that know so much
Absolutely.
more than us,
Mhm.
we that's where we just love having those conversations, and then we can share it with everybody. And that's how we can build this care and support and then action from there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember too at that time, Alicia status would have been, would have been what people would call illegal, and we had people in my
Mm.
family that were harping on, illegals and this and that, quote unquote. And I had to check them a couple times and say, well, you know that Alicia right now her status is illegal. She stayed here, and we actually had to get married earlier and than our actual wedding and things like that. And so that's another thing that helped us to empathize with other folks might be going through. But I had
Mm-hmm.
to check a few people on the way that they were talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And even that terminology, right? Like that a human might be illegal. It's
Hmm.
like that. I mean, I know you said status Christian, but that's not how folks talk about it in the street, right? So
Yeah.
I think even that term, hearing that term when we're talking about people is a huge activation point for me, because how is that possible?
Yeah.
Like, so many of us are not where we originated, whether it be in this life or because of our ancestors, you know what I mean? And so it's interesting. And what the you know, I recognize that we're talking about a lot of different things, but always bringing it back to mental health. Like this is I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine, but I can't imagine what it would do to my psyche to hear that I am illegal all
And
the
walk
time.
around with that stamp on you,
Right.
because driving around in Utah when I'm illegal, that what like you said, the impact that has on your mental health is incredible. Like you have this hyper vigilance of someone's going to pull me over for something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're going to find out, then there's going to be this snowball. I have children,
Right.
what I do with my children. And
Right.
so, and I had Christian, I had a supportive family, let alone people
Mhm.
that don't have that and that have
Right.
this stamp of illegal. Walking around with that, it's yeah, what that does for our mental health, a lot of people don't realize what people are living with on the day to day, that fear. And we know
Yeah.
what stress, the high cortisol levels is doing
Yes.
to our body, causing dis-ease, that we then it spirals mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. And yeah, I'm glad we're talking about it because I don't think that's talked about
Absolutely.
enough.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I don't separate anything from mental health, right? Like
Hmm.
because if you're alive, you're dealing with some mental health stuff because this world is just crazy. And so for me, like I would even say let me just say I love your responses. I love the simplicity of first you got to care. You got to care at all that it's even happening. You got to care enough to have the conversations, to actually talk about it, to ask the questions. And then Christian, with you coming in with the listen, right? So after you care and you ask, you need to listen because I think folks have a interesting habits of thinking that they have the solutions that the community already knows that they need, and you didn't come to me and ask me what I needed, right? You made an assumption, and so I think it's important that we do listen. And one of the things for me is just being recognizing what is happening and responding in the ways you can in the moment. So I'll give a funny example that, well, Chanel thinks it's funny. I think it's me being a good community member. Now, I live in Philly. We're honkers. Okay, yes, we are honkers.
Yes, you are.
When I lived in Hawaii, boy, I was like imaginary honking all the time because we don't honk in Hawaii. But I was Philly, we are honkers. But now when I drive, and if it's a Latinx person in front of me driving slow, I decided I'm not gonna honk because you're probably driving out of fear that something you might get pulled over, and I recognize that is just something like very small, and someone might think that it's a joke, and it's like, but these are just like when you live like that, when you live consciously, I think you think about every little thing. Like when we walk by construction sites, we'll warn if there's going to be people on, if there's, if law enforcement or ICE and we got notice are on site. I share things on social media. We have a very good community sharing information in Philadelphia that I'm appreciative of. So I share those things all the time. And I think it's just the little things. It takes nothing to be like, hey, y'all might want to be careful out here today. They're out. You know what I'm saying? Like those, and we've had situations already because, our mayor is not, yeah, anyway. So I think when we're talking about collective mental health and how do we show up for our neighbors, it can be in those simple ways. I see there's some more things in the comments. Uh, like to follow up regarding revolutionary social work perspective as it relates to holistic harm reduction approach. They put their website in there, so that's great. Um, okay, I have now, because we are seriously winding down. This has been an incredible conversation. I'll have to have you guys on for part two. Um, I do have one or maybe one or two more questions. We'll see. Oh, you know what? I got some rapid fire questions. You guys want to answer those? They'll
Let's do
take us
it.
about 2 minutes. Let's do some rapid fire. Okay. A question: did they care about our calls driving while black? Okay, I'm not going to get into that. That's another podcast. Okay,
Oh, too.
but I think when we talk about showing up for each other's communities, it can get complicated. There are histories between communities, and that also contributes to our collective mental health, our societal mental health. So I think that those are conversations that we need to be having. We will come back and do a part two. um, but also stay tuned to this podcast because we will be having some more folks on that will also be able to discuss this from a first person perspective. And I'm sure, I'm gonna let y'all, I'm gonna let you do your promos in a minute. Okay, so we're gonna do the rapid fire. Okay, one word to describe your mental health right now.
Ooh, evolving.
Mm.
Complicated.
Mm. A quote or mantra you return to.
Mine is be cool, be calm, be a master.
I was trying not to steal
Mm.
yours. That's like ingrained in my brain now.
You could have the same one. Is that like a couple's mantra?
Yeah, that's just something that, yeah, that's been going through. I think Christian brought it to me, and
Okay.
I
Just
love
wrote it.
that. But yeah.
I wrote it down one time when I had a stressful meeting, and
Mm.
I wanted mastery over myself. I'm clarify what I mean by mastery over
Mm.
myself and my emotions. And if I can be cool, be calm, and be a master over my own self and my own emotions, then I can do anything, and nobody can touch me. And we just started writing it down in bold letters everywhere, and it's just my mantra whenever I wrote it down on this paper right before I came into this meeting.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's such a good one.
Um, okay, Jessica in the chat said, Keshe, I would love to know your answers too. Okay, I guess I will. So my one word to describe my mental health right now is waves. Waves. A quote or a mantra that I return to. So I live by quotes. Anyone who knows me, no, I live by quotes. So I don't know that I can have just one quote, but the quote that I return to probably most often because it's on the bottom of my email, it's in my email signature, is Maya Angelou. People will forget what you did, they will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I return
Mm,
to that. That is how I live. That is how I practice everything through that. So,
I love that.
okay, thank you. One word to describe your relationship health right now.
Oh, I can't
Vibrant.
think. Yeah, I miss him. It's not one word, but
Oh, wait, what did Christian say? I missed it.
That vibrant.
Vibrant. Okay. Vibrant and miss you. Oh,
but
I
one
love.
word, adventure. Adventure would be. We're definitely on an adventure.
Okay. Okay. Um, for me, which relationship? I'll just say complicated. How about that? It's an adventure too. It's an adventure too. Um, a practice that's saving you right now.
My yoga practice.
Mm,
Listening. Listening, and I'm gonna give you two, listening and just breathing.
mm, yes. Yeah. Mine, I also have two, and that is ancestor and altar work. That is
Mm.
Mm,
saving me right now, truly. All right, last one is what does liberation feel like to you today?
growth.
Mm.
This is still one word.
Yes, this is still. Oh no, no, not one word. This is just the rapid fire. But go ahead.
Oh,
I think liberation goes hand in hand with freedom. I think I lived a lot of my life, and I think a lot of folks live their lives being uh, having their mind, their bodies, and their souls entrapped in something that they never chose for themselves.
Mm,
I think it wasn't too long ago that we received our wisdom and our knowledge from our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors that was passed down. And then those people went to work, and we got put in front of a television, and
mm,
advertisements and things like that got put into us. And that became our culture and the things that we believe and the things that we fear and all of those things. And so I would say that liberation feels like freedom. No, even if I were to be put, let's hope this never happens, but if I were to be put in a prison cell, they would never be able to take away my ability
mm.
to be free in my mind and my soul and in my heart. Um, and so I think that that's where I would start.
And
Mm,
that is one thing that sticks in my mind is that the Bob Marley song, "None But Ourselves Can Free Our Mind." Free
mm,
yourselves from that mental slavery. We have the power to do that. Whatever they do, and I know we're talking about that kind of abstract they, but we have the ability to free ourselves. Don't
yeah,
get trapped in that mental slavery.
And that I like that other
I love
song
that.
too by Luciano. I think it's called "Over the Hills and Valleys" or something like that. And he says that it's his main goal or something like that to liberate the captive mind. And I think that's my goal for myself, but also for how I work with students and whatnot too, is to help them liberate their own captive mind, or captivated mind is the way to put it. Liberate the captivated mind.
Mm. All right, so thank you both for those rapid fire responses. We're going to end on this question, and I have a feeling that this is going to be short because you kind of just answered a little bit in your last one. But if you woke up tomorrow, social workers, if you woke up tomorrow and the state of mental health and justice were exactly as you had envisioned or dreamed of it, what would it look like?
Oh wow. There would just be so much. I think when we talk about peace, when I think about peace, I think about love. Like we have this love for ourselves and our love for each other that allows things to be just as it is, more simple, less complicated. Um, Hopefully I can say this on here, but if I'm ever using like psilocybin spiritually, everything feels so simple and clear. And that is my vision for how things can be, because I know they can be. If I can feel it and see it during that sort of journey, I know it can be. And it's always rooted in love and simplicity. So
Mm,
I think
love
there's a
that.
lot of different ways that I could answer the question, but what came to me this time was it would look like a gift economy, and we wouldn't be so stressed about all the, just survival, paying the bills and this and that, and taking advantage of each other and trying to get the upper hand. And we would look at each other as gifts, and we would look at the possessions that we do have and the commodities that we do have as gifts, and it wouldn't always be something that we have to get up over on one another, because I think it does such a toll on our mental health to have to live in such a way. It wouldn't.
Mm,
I look at Alicia, and she's a fantastic clinician right now and a therapist. But what if you could do that as gifts instead of having to charge people's insurance and
mm,
whatnot?
mhm.
mm. Absolutely. And someone just said in the chat, I wish we had more clinicians that believe in holistic care. Yeah, and I
Amen.
think we're getting more. We're getting more, but yes, we absolutely need more. Um, all right. Well, I want to give y'all a minute. I want to first say thank you. I want to give you a minute to do your promos because you also, Christian, you got a big week coming up next week. And Alicia, I know you got a book coming out, so I'm gonna give you a second to do your promos. But really quick, I just want to say thank you so much. I want to say thank you to everyone in the audience. You all had wonderful, insightful questions, comments. Thank you to Boston Congress of Public Health for giving me this platform. Thank you to my wonderful, incredible, two of my favorite human guests, uh, uh, humans guests, Alicia and Christian. You're always showing up. I love our relationship. We need to do a podcast with you two and me and Chanel and talk
Oh
about
yeah.
stuff. I know Chanel will love talking about like being with Aries and stuff too with you. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, I just want to say thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to stay tuned in. You'll get information about when we're coming back. So do you two want to take us out with what folks can stay tuned to from you?
Thank you so much, Kashay. It's been amazing. I love having these conversations. I'll let Christian talk about the NASW next week, but yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Revolutionary Social Work. Our website's just gone live, revolutionarysocialwork.com, and we'll be at the NASW conference next week. Christian, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. This has been just an amazing conversation all around. So thanks to the Boston Congress of Public Health for putting it together. Thanks to everybody in the audience that's just inspiring with the the comments and the level of consciousness that I'm seeing in there. And thank you to you, Cache. You are the first person I noticed at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the social work. You didn't notice me the first time. You noticed
I
me later, but
did.
no, you
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
I
That's right.
love
That's
this.
You
right.
didn't. You did later,
Okay.
but you were the first person I noticed, and you caught my interest. And I think that that's just the power of the universe that shows that we are connected in the way that we are. And I wanted to thank you for something else, and that's, for showing me love and understanding despite my imperfections. And when I've made mistakes, you've showed me love instead of, hating on me for it. And I think that if we had more of that in this world, then we'd be in a much better place. So I just want to say big thank you, mahalo for that. Yeah, I think that the biggest thing would be go to the revolutionarysocialwork.com, but avoid my personal page because it's just placeholders right now. And I'm gonna
I'm
finish
working
writing
on
that
it.
up right after this. And then I mean, I've been very humbled and on all of that by all the guests that I've had over the years on the Critical Social Worker and the Revolutionary Social Work podcast. But we have an absolutely killer, amazing set of guests coming up, including Cache, including Alicia, including Brother Kyle Toon that you saw in the chat earlier, Dr. Michael Yellowbird. We've got Dr. Paul Michael Garrett, uh, professor on expert in dissenting social work from Ireland. We've got Lion Fire, indigenous reggae artist from Hawaii. Am I missing anybody, Alicia? I am missing people, but it's just,
A
I don't need
lot.
to go through them all, but it's excellent. And so I think the best way to find us is we're not the best at advertising and all that yet. Check out our LinkedIn, check out Revolutionary Social Work on Instagram, things
A
like that.
YouTube.
But I mean, what would make it even better was to have you all or some of you all come and ask questions and contribute to that dialogue. Because we're only two people, and some of them it'll just be me. And
Mm.
that's what makes it beautiful is when we get all the voices and all the questions and all that. So if anybody wants to participate in that, I would highly encourage you to do that. And other than that, I'd say the best promo I can give is everybody just keep being revolutionary and keep being your authentic selves and keep showing up and keep moving forward no matter how difficult it is in this world. And eventually we're going to find a way to reconnect on a much larger level. I believe it.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I know we got to go. So I'll just say that until next time, stay rooted, stay radical, and stay in love. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, and we're going to have just one final remark. I just want to thank all of you and our audience for being with us today. I know that the director of the program wanted to offer a few comments before we go out. So Sabath, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a great podcast. We didn't expect anything less, and it's good to hear these conversations. Even someone from a different context that can't really connect with the whole white and black disparity, but I'm able to understand what obtains in different climes. So these even translates to different communities, not just the black and white. So we even here in Africa, we have ethnicity that's in form of racism. So it's quite complex where you could come from the same place with somebody, but probably because of maybe one thing that happened 2 generations back, there is, discrimination and all that. So it's good to relate with these kinds of conversation. And thank you to our audience for joining in and for providing those feedback. We'll still be sending out the surveys to get your feedback for Cache. And of course, you should expect more coming out of Cache for her podcast with BCPH. So thank you, Christian. Thank you, Alicia. And of course, thank you, Cache, for setting this up. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you,
And
Sabath.
stay safe.
Thank you for joining.